talking about this earlier, but with this being this first season of the show, you're setting the tone for how this game is going to be played in the future. For
Mhm.
players who may compete on it, what aspect of your strategy do you hope they adapt?
The aspect of my strategy that I hope they adapt, I'm again, I got to see if they show it. So I'm curious to see that, but like I figured Danny out. I figured out how a group of people can kind of bend the anonymous mode to its will. I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out how you could do it by yourself, but there's not really a way to really bend the anonymous mode to your will unless you're willing to throw one of your close allies under the bus. And for me, that was too risky. Like if let's say I'm super close with Christopher. Let's say I'm super close with Christopher. I could go in the chat and just obliterate Christopher, put a huge target on his back, and people aren't going to assume it's me because he's my
Mm,
ally. And
yeah.
so that would probably increase the probability of me becoming the anonymous. But if I don't get the anonymous power and the person, and like I've blown up his target too big, or someone who doesn't like Christopher gets power, I just sent him home indirectly. And like to me, that's too risky. So I was like, I don't like that strategy. So I'd rather figure out like, okay, here's a group of people. If we all use the chat to try to filter out the people that we're targeting, and then from there, let's figure out how we're gonna vote. Okay, so like we think this person might be this handle and this habit. So you two throw some votes there, you two throw some votes here, you two throw some votes here. And we continue to do that to where it decreases the probability that they become the anonymous. And then with our allies, with everyone that we're working with, if you think you know their handle, put a random one on it because it increases the probability that someone you're working with becomes the anonymous.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. And so this way, even if I don't get the anonymous, I know we probably figured out who the people are that we don't want to get the power. And if I didn't get it, more than likely one of my allies got it. So even if I'm at risk, they're probably going to bail me out. Yeah,
They
and
def
so this way you don't have to put your allies at risk, and you're kind of ensuring that you increase the probability of you becoming the anonymous. Because yeah, my first strategy, which was just pretending to be Lily, it worked. It worked. I definitely think it worked for me because I ranked high those first couple of rankings. I was in like top 4 or 5 or top 3 even, and then I did good on third day, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, like it gets to the point to where it's like I was like, oh, every time someone's voting for me as Fish, thinking I'm Lily, that's also giving Lily votes, which keyed me into the fact that like, oh, Lily's probably ranking super high too because no one's
mm,
correctly guessing her hand. And so for me, I learned like, okay, that's kind of dangerous. So if you're gonna pretend to be somebody, you should probably pretend to be one of your allies, just because then you would get more votes. But yeah, the group strategy to me was the most effective. It prevents you having to throw your allies at risk and increases the odds that someone you're working with gets the anonymous power. It's just a matter of whether or not everyone can stay on the same page, or if like they're going to be so fixated on getting the anonymous that they can't kind of stick to the game plan.
they definitely show that, and that's such a good strategic mindset, bringing kind of
I'm
reworking the
hoping
game.
people see a little bit more of that.
They
I
do,
don't think
they
people
do.
quite I don't think people quite like. I know sometimes people will think like either socially maybe I just don't know what I'm doing, or like strategically I've never really had like a brain for these games. So I'm hoping this time around people get to see a little bit more how I do socially and maybe how my brain works when it comes to
Yeah.
these games. Because like what you see in this game with like how analytical I am, that's literally me in every
Yeah.
single show that I'm on.
As somebody
I just don't. Yeah, I
yeah,
just don't always vocalize it.
as somebody who's seen you compete across all these different shows, it definitely this show definitely shows a different side of your strategic mindset. I got one final really quick question for you, but you
Yeah,
were
go
part
ahead.
of one of the strongest alliances in reality television. Who of your fellow Cookout members would do the best on this show, and who would do the worst?
Who would do the worst? Probably Kylan. Probably Kylan or Big D. I think would do the worst. They're not bad game players. They're just more outspoken.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen Kylan on the challenge. He's not afraid to get up in somebody's face and point a finger. That's a huge target. So probably Big D or Kylan just because they're more outspoken. Who would do the best? I think Ozza would do well at getting along with everybody. I think everyone would trust Ozza. I don't know how well she would do at being anonymous. Because that requires a high, like you got to be extremely deceptive or willing to kind of, unless you use
Mm,
my plan, you got to be willing to throw your ally under the bus, and I can't see odds of doing that.
yeah, same.
Um, Tiffany, I could see doing very well as long as people don't know who she is. I think if people know who she is, then she's going to encounter more trouble. But if they don't, I think she could navigate the game similar to how like Sari did her first season of the Traders.
Mm,
So I would say out of all of them, the person I would give probably the best shot to would probably be Hannah. I don't think Hannah's gonna come off as super threatening to people. I think she's a high level thinker. So I think strategically she'll know how to navigate the game. Socially, I don't think she'll have problems. She's not super outspoken. She gets along with most people. She's very kind, but then she's also can flip the switch and do what needs to get done. Like she can be very cutthroat. So I would say out of the cookout, I think Hannah would probably do the best for this game because I don't think she would be a glaring target to people, even if they know her. And I think she'd be willing to be in the anonymous chat and do whatever she needs to do. And then I also think strategically, she's smart enough to figure out the game. Like if I could figure it out, Hannah, what? like